Hello, this is Laura Live, and today I actually wanted to make this talk called The Single Most Important Thing You Can Do to Speed Up Conversational Communication, but that was too long of a title. So just what is the one thing, the biggest thing that you can do for your child to bring him from just basic word labels and knowing verbs and nouns and commands to actually having a conversation with him. And I don't mean necessarily with vocal verbal speech, because that's important, but even through writing or typing if you have someone who's really, really severe apraxia. Getting those thoughts, the child's thoughts together so they communicate with more complex language. Now there's lots of hurdles that we go through with developmental stages in language. The first one is just understanding that these sounds we make mean something. I call it the Helen Keller moment, when a child, just a light bulb goes on, they realize, oh, that's why you're making all these noises. They actually mean something. For a typical child, that realization happens naturally without us having to teach them. For a child with autism, we have to literally teach them that we're not just barking like a dog or making sounds like a tree in the wind, that these sounds we make mean something. Once they have that, then you can teach them what all the sounds mean. It's getting to that point sometimes it takes a long time. It took my son Max 6 months or more just for that one little thing. And then after that, you can teach them, especially with Gemini, because the videos are so easy for these children to learn. Neurologically speaking, it's just very simple for them, for their brain to learn lots and lots and lots of single subjects, single words. And it's, I remember teachers used to say, oh, I can teach a kid to do that. And I say, yeah, but you have to do it. You have a lot of other skills that computers can't do. Why would you be doing something a computer can do better than you can, faster, cheaper, easier, in the car or wherever? You therapists have much more important things they need to deal with than just flipping flashcards. So once you have all these labels, got verbs, what do you do? There's this chasm that happens between knowing a lot of words and being able to use them in language. And sometimes that chasm is never breached. Sometimes it just stays a chasm for the person's whole life. And this is when the person will sometimes take scripts that they've learned by watching other videos that they think have something to do with what you're talking about and start using these scripts, even though they can't create a sentence on their own. They've memorized these chunks of scripts. So the fastest way to take a child from these single words to communication is to teach him to read. And so many people wait. They do it the other way around. They don't teach them to read until they have more language, which is backwards, because it just takes them much longer to get where you're going then. Teaching a child to read is, I could say on the spectrum, is challenging at best. The children a lot of the times yell, scream, they don't like it, it's boring, they want to stim, they'll go off in their own world, they don't want to learn to read. And that's why Gemini's reading tool is so huge. I homeschooled 7 children. I taught 7 children how to read. My first child is on the spectrum. He's high functioning, very, very high functioning Aspie, with dyslexia. And I mean, it was a fight every day, crying, screaming, yelling. Oh my gosh, it was so stressful for both of us. I think it affected our relationship till today, actually. Looking back, he's glad I did it, because he didn't know at the time, we didn't know at the time that he was dyslexic. And by teaching him so early, I taught him when he was 3.5, we were able to nip a lot of the issues with dyslexia in the bud. So he's glad I did it, but it was scary. So as I can see, going through all these children, some were easier to teach, some were harder to teach, but it was really one of my least favorite things to do. I'd rather have a root canal than teach a little kid to read, really. It's just, until now, the 7th child, I'm using Gemini. Oh my gosh, it's so easy. I just make the session, he watches it in the car. I've never fought with him. He just watches this thing in the car on his way back and forth to school. And then when he's sitting with me before he goes to bed, he has to read out all the words. It takes less than 10 minutes and he gets better every day. It's happening all by itself, on its own. And he's going around and he's sounding out things now that he sees, and this is so easy. And when I go back and I thought about when we taught our twins who are autistic to read, we had this whole bunch of these little tiny books that were very, very simple, sort of like Bob books. And as they were, we used video for them to teach them how to read too, but I didn't have Gemini at the time. I had to make all the videos myself one by one, and we did sounds of letters, and then we had words, and it was easier with making, even though I had to make the videos myself, and these were autistic kids, it was easier teaching these autistic kids that I had to make the videos I had to make myself than it was the older children who were typically functioning, and I just had to sit there and teach them the old-fashioned way. I have such respect for kindergarten teachers who are teaching kids to read. Whew, it's a big job. So what happened with Max is once we taught him how to read, he started to want to read books. And he took the little books, and then he took bigger books, and then he started reading, and then he would take a pen and he would doodle all over the books, but he would be reading them. And the key here, you're going to hate me for this, you're going to hate me, got to get rid of the videos, of the movies, of the cartoons, of the YouTube, because it's the same problem that adults are having now with the internet. People don't read. Very few people are reading anymore because they are surfing the internet, and it stimulates your default network, which becomes addictive. It's the same feeling that the kids have when they want to stim. People who are constantly looking in their phones, looking up things, who can't literally stand in line at the grocery store without taking out their phone and looking up things, who are constantly pulled to their computer to search the web and to do things. You know what it's like to be autistic, because that pull that you have in your brain to want to look at your phone and do all this is the same pull that people have to stim. This like urge that they have to do it because their default network is so engaged with the technology. And that's what happens. And it's like when you watch a movie. Do you want to read a book? You want to watch a movie? Oh, let's watch a movie, because watching a movie you gain your you engage your default network, and you just sit back. And it uses a part of your brain that feels good. I'm sure they did more. There's very little research that I can find on the default network, but I'm sure it's a place where dopamine lives. I'm sure if I looked it up, I'd find all of this stuff that. Yeah, it's a happy place, but it's not a place where we can communicate. It's not a place where we can learn. It's not a place where we can master skills. We can work in that. We can't work in that. We have to be in our active network. And so with Max and Anna, they were allowed to watch one video a week on the weekend, about an hour and a half or something. But then during the week, no TV, no videos. So they started to like books. And they were always, when they weren't in therapy, they would be reading books. And by reading, you can literally plot Max's language use and his comprehension with his ability to read. He started to be able to read, to teach him when he was 5. That's when he finally had enough expressive language. By the time he was 7, he was reading all kinds of books. I don't know what he was reading, but he was reading lots and lots of books. By the time he was 8, his favorite book was a world atlas, historical atlas, that he could tell you from any country, what their history of the country. He's amazing with geography, absolutely amazing. And to the point where my husband had to go on a business trip to China when Max was about 8 years old. And so I asked all the kids, so what do you want from China? What do you want from China? One said, I want a little terracotta soldier. Someone said, I want some jade jewelry. Someone said all this stuff. And Max, the 8-year-old, said, I would like a book on the ethnic minorities of China. The funniest thing looking back is nobody even batted an eye. Like, okay, that's what Max wants. This is what the 8-year-old kid wants. Brian brought him home the book, and he read it from cover back and forward he practically memorized it. He thought it was great. So he would never have been so academic, which helped so much with school later on, because we could focus on social skills. We could focus on all of these other things. So I didn't have to worry about him academically if he hadn't learned to read so well. And he would never have liked to read if he were able to watch videos all the time. So this is a kid, and I'm bringing this up because I'm dealing now with this, excuse me, with my 4-year-old. He always, can I watch a show? Can I watch a show? Can I watch a show? And I have to just take the shows away. We don't watch shows, and only on very specific circumstances do we let him watch a show. He's got bins of toys. He has to play with his toys. He has to be engaged in the real world. Watching a lot of television or lots of video is just not good for your active network. And it's funny, people say, how can you say that? You own a video modeling company. You're all about watching video. Yeah, well, Gemini's not video. It is a weird thing. And it's not nobody would sit and watch Gemini for entertainment, to go off into your own world, to just relax. It's not relaxing. Because of the way it's filmed, it actually wakes you up constantly. And I talk to people and I say, it's like if you've ever watched a movie and you see a really bad actor all of a sudden just comes on the screen. And then you're like, oh, shoot, that feeling, that happy feeling just kind of burst, and now I'm back into real life. That's boring. And like, oh. And then you know that feeling. Well, Gemini sort of forces that feeling every few seconds, like 10 seconds. You constantly, so you're just waking up. It's not the same thing as your regular video. In fact, my 4-year-old watches Gemini too, and he watches probably an hour and a half of Gemini a day between traveling and watching when he's eating and stuff. And I can tell it does not have the same effect on him as other video. He'll never say, can I watch Gemini? Can I watch Gemini? No, he wants to watch videos that just engage his active network. Now, his default network. Now, he fights me with Gemini. At first it was a real fight because he could feel it wasn't doing it for him when he was maybe 3. But then it's just something he knows, okay, we got to watch this thing in the car. We have to watch this thing during meals. We have to watch this thing when I go to bed, before I go to bed. And it's just part of our routine, so he doesn't fight it. But you're going to get some pushback. Anybody who's starting this, you'll probably get some pushback at first, and it'll become a routine, and then they'll just give in. And it'll be worth it. Now, okay, so I think that's all I have for today. And if you have any questions, you can post them afterwards on the comments below. And just want to say, encourage your child. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Sorry. Encourage your child to read. Once your child has gotten through Quick Start language and knows receptively, they don't have to be saying it, understands receptively what all this stuff is in Quick Start language, then you can start to teach them to read. At that point, it doesn't even matter so much if they understand what every single word is that they're reading, because English is phonetic. They'll be learning the phonetic part, and it may take longer. It may take, Quick Start reading is a 6-month program. It may take them to go through it twice, so it may take a year for them to go through it before they really master it. But just start right away. If you have a child start Gemini when he's 2, when he's through Quick Start language, by the time he's 3, start reading. Start it right away. First of all, the close-up mouth emphasis will help with expressive language. And secondly, when he will just work together so that as he's learning receptive language and he's learning to read at the same time, they'll come together and his reading will be much easier. He'll go into preschool way ahead of other kids, and the kindergarten way ahead of other kids. Max and Anna were fabulous readers by the time they were in first grade. I mean, way ahead of the other kids, of the typical kids. Way, way, way ahead. Because we didn't have video. And they had to read books, and we had a big library of books. And this goes too with neurotypical kids too. The problem is surfing the internet. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Oh. So Max, who was this fabulous reader, would just read everything, love books. As soon as he got a smartphone, and he's constantly, he's teaching himself all the stuff. He's on Khan Academy a lot. He's just refreshing trigonometry. He loves that. He loves doing that stuff. But he hardly ever picks up a book anymore. And I was thinking, that's sad. He used to be such a fabulous reader, and he doesn't read at all anymore. He's just constantly researching online. And I'm sure it's not good for his social skills because it's reinforcing his default network. And he's 20. So, he's pretty busy, and he's got a job at a grocery store, he's going to college and all this kind of stuff. But in his spare time, he's not reading for pleasure like he used to. So I think it's a good thing for all of us just to disengage from the internet. Unfortunately, my job is online. and a lot of it is on Facebook. I'm commenting and talking to people on Facebook all the time. All my employees all over the world, I use Hangouts to talk to them. I'm always online. I wish I could break away from it. I try to read something every day. I have a book by my desk. I try to read it every day. But reading really is good in reinforcing your active network. So it's just a better. There's a really great book called The Shallows. So now there's a book, the last name, the author's Carr. And it talks about how the internet is making us think very shallowly, where we can't think deeply anymore. We have breath. We're like multitasking like crazy. But about thinking one subject very deeply, it's starting to get annoying now. And I'm sure if you go back and look at it, it's much more than likely part has to do with the default network getting stronger and stronger. Okay, that was what I wanted to say. So I will see you all on Wednesday. Have a great day, and don't forget to share and to subscribe. Bye-bye.